Hey guys, welcome back to Bad Luck Garage. Today we're doing a kind of combination install and review video, and this is also the first video in kind of a little series we're going to do on the China vet back here on installing Nitrous. So in this video I've actually got a switch panel that I bought off an eBay seller. This guy was on top of his game, answering my questions as soon as I emailed him. Great guy to deal with. This is not a sponsored video. Paid for this with my own money, but I just really felt like I needed to do kind of a review and install on this product because I was really happy with my experience. So before I start this video, I do want to say, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, think about clicking that subscribe button and the notification bell, because I'm going to be trying to hammer out a lot of videos in the next few weeks, getting this thing ready to take back to the drag strip. So if you don't want to miss anything, don't forget to click the notification bell, guys. Okay guys, so I just want to start off this review by saying no BS. I was not sponsored at all. I paid for this with my own money. You guys know that I actually built a Nitrous switch panel for the, well, at the time it was the Nitrous C10. It later on became the Turbo C10. But for the C5, I kind of wanted to go a different route, and after I thought about all the time I put into that switch panel, I thought, hey, let's just order one up. Initially, I was going to order a switch panel from NX, Nitrous Express. The switch panels from Nitrous Express only come with 4 switches. And, while they do come with little labels or whatever, guys, this guy actually engraved. Like, I really thought I was going to get a piece of plastic with labels stuck on it, but I don't know if you can tell, but they're actually engraved. All the lettering is engraved into the plastic here, and then it's white somehow. I don't know the process, don't know how he does it, but this looks like a very nice piece. And I actually contacted him and asked for a custom setup, and he was like, sure, no problem, what do you want? And I told him, I said, well, I'd like my Nitrous arm button to have a blue light, and the heater button, I initially said yellow, and he came back and said all he had was orange, which orange is actually what I meant. Yellow to you is orange to me, sir. But anyway, he put all the colors, and the reason I wanted the colors is because at night sometimes the letters are hard to read. If you click something and it lights up and you can associate that color, then in my opinion it's just a safer setup. Also, I knew what wiring I had to wire this up with, so I kind of knew what wire I was going to run for what system, so I wanted to make sure that was coordinated too, to make things a little easier to hook up later on. Now, as I've said right off the bat, as soon as I opened this in the mail, I was like, wow, this was definitely worth what I paid. I mean, this was really nice. It came with, the switches. It came with a packet with all the connectors you need. So every one of these connectors you see, they were all in this packet. It has smaller connectors for the smaller switches, which before I realized he had sent smaller connectors, I had already done the grounds. So that's why those are larger connectors. But you can see it does actually have the smaller connectors meant for these momentary switches. While I was hooking it up, I did run into a problem, guys, and I want to go ahead and get that out of the way. The line lock button that was in here, you see how these activate? Well, this is the button that was originally in it, and you can see you press the button, it doesn't catch. So I emailed him, and guys, like I said, from the first moment I emailed this guy, he was all over it. The first time I emailed him, it was like 10 o'clock at night. I didn't expect to hear from him until the next day. This guy emailed me 10 minutes later. So when I told him about this switch, oh, well, it caught that time. But yeah, usually it won't catch. When I told him it had a messed up switch, he sent me not one, but 2 replacement switches. Okay, obviously I only needed one because this one was bad, and now that I've shown that to you guys, I'm going to throw it in the trash. But my point is, I mean, customer service was spot on with this guy. So I mean there's really not a lot to review. I am going to do an install in this video, but basically, guys, I mean, my buying experience and having it customized the way I wanted was wonderful. I think for an extra $10 or something, he can also put things, you know, in the empty spots on the panel. I saw some of the switch panels that he makes actually have like LSX down the side, or, you know, other things. So yeah, you can just hit him up, and, you know, if he can do it, he'll do it for you. If not, then I'm sure he'll tell you guys, because like I said, he's this guy was really attentive whenever I shot him questions. So I really appreciate that, sir. And we're going to start hooking this up now. You do need to have your own wiring. So what I decided to do, now keep in mind, guys, every one of these switches is going to run to a relay, okay? So we're not going to be pulling an enormous amount of power from our power source here. All we need is trigger power. All it takes is a couple volts. So what I've done is I've wired our power sources for all the switches, except the bottle opener. I have not done anything with the bottle opener yet because, well, I don't have a bottle opener, so but I do plan on getting one eventually. But for the time being, I'm not even sure exactly how to hook it up. So yeah, 20 years and 20 years of Nitrous, guys, and I have never owned a bottle opener in my life. So it's always been one of those things that I just felt was an extravagance and unnecessary cost. But anyway, I ran all my grounds to a thicker single ground wire that hopefully is long enough, and I ran all of my my hots to a single wire that we're going to hook up in the passenger side footwell. And then I ran all my trigger wires into this, and once we get it through the firewall, we are going to loom all this up, so it won't just be, you know, wires under there. We're going to put some wire loom around it, but basically it's like this. The white wire is my line lock. The blue wire is my arm button for my first stage of Nitrous. The yellow wire is my heater. What have I got here? The green wire is my purge button, and the the red wire here is going to be for, yeah, guys, a second stage of Nitrous. This stage is actually going to be armed along with the first stage. So the first stage initially is just going to be wide open throttle and RPM activated. But later on, I hope to get a progressive controller so I can run a larger shot on that. Anyway, you guys don't need to know any of that. You just need to know how this panel hooks up, so let's get to it. So what we have here is your ashtray. If you look at the back of the panel, you'll see he has 3M double-sided tape on that panel. That's going to correspond to your ashtray here. Now, you've got your little flapper door here. A lot of you are saying, hey, am I going to have to ruin my ashtray? Those things are like 40 bucks on eBay. Yes, you are going to have to ruin your ashtray. So the first thing we're going to do, there is a little pin here. It's actually this pin here that slides through and holds your spring and your door on. So we're going to kind of push it through on this side. And then on this side, we're just going to grab a pair of needle nose pliers. Hold your spring with your hand there so it doesn't just fly out, and just slide your pin out just like that. Pull it the rest of the way out. There's your door, there's your spring. You can go ahead and shove your pin back through here and put this in a box with all the other C5 parts that you take off while you're modifying your C5, because well, that's what I do, guys. I just keep all the parts together. That way, if I ever have to put anything back together, they're all in one spot. I know where everything is. The next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to drill a hole in here somewhere in order to pass the wires through. Now, since all the wires are going to be going that way, and there is actually a opening, I believe it's about right here in the console where this ashtray goes. I believe we're probably going to drill a big hole right here. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go in the car and I'm going to make sure that you know, that's where I need that hole. We have this big opening behind that catch that would be perfect to run the wires through. The only problem really that I see with using that is that, you know, if you've got the wires coming out the side of the ashtray, it might make it hard to, you know, kind of shove that back in there. So okay, so I got a funny story for you. I actually drilled the hole on the wrong side. Doesn't really matter, you're not gonna see it when this is finished, but what I ended up doing, I drilled the hole on the other side, and instead of drilling it on the back or on the side, I went through the corner. So I'm hoping what that's going to allow me to do is run the wires out the back, and then as I'm sliding it into the console, kind of pull them over to the side, so that way I don't have to drill in my console at all. But anyway, there's my hole. Should be big enough to pass all these wires through. So now I have cleaned this surface area here with alcohol, and we're going to go ahead and shove the wires through. Probably way more wire than I needed on these, because these are going to have to go up under the hood and eventually to a relay panel that I'm going to build in an upcoming video. I have not built the relay panel yet, and that's why none of this is really going to get hooked up, except for possibly the power and ground. I haven't decided yet, but as far as all these other wires, they don't really have anywhere to go yet, guys. I'm waiting on the parts to get here that I ordered to build my relay panel for my nitrous and line lock and, you know, well, basically everything in this switch. All right, so I can see I'm going to need to try to flex all my wires kind of over to the side and bundle them together. I thought I had already bundled them together well enough, but apparently I did not. Before you stick this down, now would be a good time to go on the other end of your harness, and I'm about to do that, and go ahead and label your wires. Now, most of these on mine I have color coded, but you know, I still don't want to forget, and there are a couple such as my purge and my line lock, which are actually not color coded. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to gently try to work these down because we don't want anything to touch, but I'm having a little issue trying to get it tucked into the ashtray here. So we'll make our labels, try to get these all tucked down a little better, and hopefully we'll get this sucker together. All right, guys, so it took a lot of finessing, but I was finally able to get everything down in there. I did have to turn the bottle opener sideways. Basically what's going on is the edges of the buttons are hitting top and bottom and side to side, so it's actually causing some of the buttons to pop out a little bit, but you know, I just kind of gently pulled on the wires as I pushed it down, and you can see it does bulge a little bit, but I mean, you're not going to notice that once it's in there. My only concern with that is that, you know, if this 3M adhesive is going to manage to stay in there, especially when it gets hot in the car, I'm afraid it's going to just like pop loose. But for now, I think we're good. And I do want to say, he does actually give you an option, instead of using 3M adhesive, he gives you an option to use screws in the corners. So maybe this is the reason for that, because like I said, like my heater button's wanting to pop out. But I also want to say I did use probably a thicker gauge of wire than I needed to. You could probably get away with like 18 gauge wire on this, because again, all of these are just going to be triggers for relays, so they're not going to have to carry a lot of current. I'm just hoping at this point that I didn't, you know, have anything that came apart inside there. Like I said, I had to turn the opener button sideways, which isn't a deal breaker, but I didn't think of this until now. If I do want to add a heater, or I mean a opener later, I'm going to have to somehow remove this. And then, geez guys, it was so hard getting this in anyway. I don't know, running 6 more wires in there, if I'm going to be able to do it again. What might not be a bad idea is to actually cut out part of the back here to give some relief for some of the wiring in there. But point is, it is together, and now we're going to stick it in the car. So the next thing you're going to want to do is remove your kick panel, which just pulls down from the top. Remove your fuse box cover, and then right here on the passenger side, you know, this carpet's under here. You just want to pull this carpet back. You don't have to just tear it apart, guys. You just want to pull it back enough to give yourself some room, because you're going to have to fish your wires down through there. Right? Yep, Chester says right. We're on the right track. Now I'm going to stick my wires through this hole here, and you can see they're coming out down here, so I'm just going to grab them and pull them all through. Then when you get to the point where you've got them almost all the way fed through, and you can do this from the driver's side, guys. I was just doing it from the passenger side because it was easier to show you, but once you get to this point, you should be able to just click your ashtray into position while simultaneously pulling the wires. You can see our lid shuts and opens, and we'll just go ahead and turn all of our switches off and turn them, make sure they're all aimed properly. So alright, so there's the switch panel in up here. Now we've got to get power and ground to it. Now to get your power, we're going to be going with the famous fuse number 22 in the fuse box that we just removed the cover from. So you're going to need one of these. This is a Bussmann fuse tap, and as you can see, it just plugs into a fuse, and it's got a fuse to continue the circuit for the fuse that was already in there. In our case, there was not one in there. And then it's got a fuse to your new power lead. You can get these at Walmart in the automotive lighting section for about $5. They're about the same at any auto parts store. And it says 2 10-amp fuses, so that's what we're going to use. I don't think we should be drawing any more than that. It shouldn't be an issue. Looks like I may be a little short, not only on my ground, but on my power lead. So that kind of sucks. I'm going to have to solder and heat shrink some more wire to these two to reach where we're going. During this process, I've learned a few things about the old C5 China Vet here, and the first thing I've learned is there are really not a lot of good grounds inside the car. So what I've done is I have extended my ground wire to the same length as all the other wires, which I've already put inside this loom. I'm going to run my ground wire inside that loom as well, and we're going to ground it out in the engine bay. But as far as getting power, here's our little connector I showed you. So basically all we're going to do is plug this guy in right here, and this is socket, hope you guys can see that. This is socket 22. If you look it up, it'll say body control module 3 or something, but it is unused, guys. So we're going to put our little jumper on here, and that should give us 12 volts when the key's on. I just put the carpet back up in place. You can see where our loom's coming out down here. We got our main hot wire, which is going to tie into this, and the rest of our wires are inside this wire loom. You know, there's quite a bit of extra here, but now we've got to figure out how to get them from in here to out in the engine bay. So I have removed my battery, which is actually a good thing because I need to do a little cleaning back here. And it appears, with you guys around here, if you go down here, we've got this huge grommet right here, and this is a pass-through for all our wiring going into the engine bay. There may be other pass-throughs, but this looks like it's probably going to be our best option. So what I figured out is this is nowhere near as bad as it seems. If you look under your glove box, you're going to see 2 gray clips. If you pull down on those clips, this whole section right here will drop down, If you get up under here and remove this insulation, you can see, I hope you can see, but right there is that huge plug. And guys, you can pull the plug back into the body. The plug is really thick. It would be very difficult to try to shove a bundle of wires. You might be able to fish 1 or 2 wires through with the main trunk of your wiring harness. But what I think is going to be easier is to just try to run my loomed wires beside it, because the back side of it is really soft. I don't think it's going to cause anything to rub through. And once the wires are through, we can just push our plug back in or pull it in with the main trunk from the other side there, and everything should be through the firewall. There we go, guys. We are through the main firewall. I was able to pull the seal back out, the lip all around there. This side of the seal is real squishy, so it's kind of just pushing around and sealing around our loom there. Got our whole trunk of wires out into the engine bay where we need them. And after snapping everything back in place under here, the only thing we see is our main power wire, and you know, there's our little fuse tap. Onto the ground that I've been complaining about. We actually have, if you look right here off our battery cable, follow the small part of the battery cable down to right there, there is a ground. We just need to pull this box out here to access that ground, and to pull that box out, it's real simple, guys. You just have to pull this guy up and pull out this little panel clip here, and this whole thing just lifts up. Now that that's out of the way, you can clearly see our ground connection here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our ground wire. I'm actually going to bring it out of the harness, probably back about right here, so I can bring it around beside the battery or under the battery tray, and put a ring terminal on it and ground it right here. I actually went a step further and removed the battery tray simply because there was a lot of battery acid and stuff on it. The wife's actually cleaning that, but if you look over here, you can see I tied my ground in, and if you pay real close attention, you can see I ran another really thick ground, well, thick for what it's for, from this grounding point back up through my harness. And what this is actually for is for the relay panel. This is going to ground all the relays, so that's coming in a future video as well, but that's going to be, you know, I'm just going to try to stay on topic here. So anyway, we're all grounded here, everything's run through the firewall. I'm about to start reassembling everything, and then we will do a switch check and hopefully be done. So everything is back together up here. The only thing left to do is hook up our power wire and test it all out. As I said earlier, I am going to be building a relay panel that's going to mount up here somewhere in this general area. But a relay panel for all our solenoids and everything in an upcoming video, hopefully in the next week or so if all the parts arrive. But until then, what I've done is I took all my wires, wound them up, taped off all the ends, and just shoved them back here behind the battery. I don't plan on really driving the car much, if at all, until that is finished, so it's not a big deal. However, if you are doing this and you do plan on driving the car for a while, it may be a good idea to make you a wiring diagram, just in case your labels that you put on your wires might get exposed to water or something like that. 'Cause you don't want to forget what goes where, guys. Once the switch panel's hooked up, you're going to be making a wiring diagram of that anyway, so always good practice. I'm not going to permanently crimp this yet because we are going to be running a wideband in our next video. So for the time being, I'm just going to throw this wire in there, and that should give us key on and let us test our switches. All right, so we're just going to key on and see what happens. Cross your fingers. Yep. Nitrous, bottle warmer, line lock. There we go, guys. Everything's working. Good to go. All right, guys, I hope this video helped you out. If it did, make sure you give it a big thumbs up, share it with someone else that may need it. If you're not subscribed yet, got a lot of C5 content coming, guys, so you might want to click subscribe, click that notification bell so you know when I put a new video out. Upcoming videos, we're going to be doing a wideband install, Nitrous system install, building a relay panel, not trans brake, but a line lock. We got a lot coming, guys. So stay tuned for the next video. Get out in the garage, get something done, and I'll see you next time here on Bad Luck Garage.